Hello fellas, and welcome to another preparation video for the OSCP. In this video we're going to try to break into Kioptrix 4 or Kioptrix Level 4 or Kioptrix 1.3, which is how you find it on vulnhub. Alright, so a couple of points to make before, a couple of summary points to make before getting into this video is that Kioptrix Level 4 was also similar to the other Kioptrix machines. The initial vector of attack was really straightforward. I went into the machine, so I've broken into the machine through SQL injection, and there are more than one ways, so there are at least two ways of doing SQL injection into this machine. You can do it automatically, or you can do it manually. We'll mostly explore the manual version of the SQL injection because that's how you actually learn. After getting into the machine, the privilege escalation part, since this is a very old machine, could also be done, or you can also escalate your privileges to the root account through various ways. Some of them include using exploits, and the one that we're actually going to focus on today is taking advantage of misconfigurations or poor configurations of the server. Alright, so enough with the chit chat, let's get into this machine. We're going to start with a simple nmap -sv, so we're going to it's better to start off simply, and if the nmap -sv doesn't give you too many vectors of attack or any potential leads, you might want to try -a, or instead of -a or -sc -ss -o for operating systems, so -ss for half open scan, -sc for default scripts, -sv for version, -o, -t4 for rapid scanning, -vv for high verbosity, -p- for all ports. Then you have the IP 192.168.150.136, I believe. So for that we're doing a net discover, but before that ifconfig. We're going to look into my subnet, so I'm 152. So we can do net discover -i on the interface to actually speed up this discovery of hosts. So net discover -i interface -r for range 192.168.152.0.24, and Kioptrix should be 136. Okay, we can stop this. Clear. So 136 and minus output, normal output. So we're going to output this to file Kio13. But since I said we're going to do a quick scan, we're just going to use nmap -sv, and that's just about it. If this type of scan doesn't tell us anything interesting, we can add multiple parameters or arguments to nmap. Okay, so this should, since this is just SV, -sv software, or -sv version, this is going to be a quick scan. We can see 22 for SSH, 80 open, 139.445. So we have Samba and we have port 80. So these are two potential vectors, which is why we're going to do more enumeration. So let's see what's on port 80. This is actually my write-up for this machine, and we might look into it if we somehow need more information along the way. So 192.168.152.136. And we are presented with a login page. So the first thing that I'm going to do when I see a login page is to try some sort of SQL injection, since we're dealing with input fields over here. we can look at the page source, but there isn't anything interesting. Just that when we send information using, when we input information and we click the login page, this form actually goes to, this is a post request to check login. So we might need this if we want to do some sort of further investigation using Burp or Burp Suite. Okay, so before getting into trying different usernames or passwords, what I also did was to look into Samba, because Samba revealed Samba user enumeration revealed a couple of users, a couple of valid users. So we might want to use these for the field, for the username field. And also at the same time, let me just start a dirbuster or a dirb with everything default 192.168.152.136. So it's going to use the common.txt, which is a 4612 words. And we can see that it's pretty fruitful. Quickly, we can see that there's a folder John. But anyway, let's just leave this to finish. And it actually did finish. All right, in the meantime, let's look into Samba. So we're not going to use actually SMB client. We can use SMB client for exemplification purposes. See if it reveals anything. 192.168.152.136. We're gonna try and see if it lists the shares using anonymous login. And we can see that there isn't anything interesting over here other than the default things. This is what I usually see in Samba. Let's clear this and let's use nmap ---- script. I believe is SMB enum share or share enum, something like that. Let's actually look into user share nmap scripts, I believe. Let's grab SMB. So SMB enum shares, not enum shares, but we're gonna use the enum users. So nmap ---- script equals SMB enum users on 192.168.152.136. So we have a user, we have a folder John, which is interesting. So SMB enum share found John, Lone Ferret, Nobody, Robert, and Root. Okay, so since this one found John, since this nmap script found John as a user, and we also see a John over here, we could try the username John, and the password you can look for SQL injections. So if you're interested in learning more about SQL injection, do a Google search for SQL injection login forms. So SQL injection login forms, and read more into this. So login bypass using SQL injection. There are plenty of resources out there if you want to learn more about this. Okay, so we're going to use John, and the injection that seems to be working for this is in the field of password, and the injection is, I'm just going to paste it over here, is 1 or 1 equals 1. Just gonna cut it and paste it in the password, then log in, and we can see that we are inside John. So we are given a password, my name is John. we can see that there are other users as well. So there's also Robert, and we can try the same SQL injection. If we hit logout and try Robert with the same password, we are logged in Robert's control panel. I haven't tried others, but let's see what Lone Ferret tells us. So Lone Ferret with the same password. There isn't anything here. So we're going back to John with the password. Log out. John with the password. So my name is John. This is John's password. Okay, so this was SQL injection manually. It was really simple, really straightforward. So there wasn't like some sort of complex like blind SQL injection or anything. This was just simple login bypass. And the first thing that I tried when I saw that we have a password was to SSH into this username with this password. But before we get into that, let's actually save this password, Control-C, and paste it over here. Before doing that, I told you that there are multiple ways into exploiting this SQL injection vulnerability. And another one was through automated SQL injection using SQL map. So I'm not actually going to go into the details, but I'm going to show you how this is possible. So we want to build a SQL map attack in the following way. So it's going to be SQL map -h, I believe. Let's see. So it's SQL map minus u, I believe, for URL. SQL map -u, HTTP 192.168.152.136, and this is we have to also fill in with the page that we want where we think the SQL injection is, or where we want to test for SQL injection. Then we're going to fill in with some data, and then we can specify DBMS for the type of database, which is MySQL in this case, MySQL, and then we're going to specify that we want to dump whatever they find, whatever SQL map finds. We're going to use a level of 5 with a risk of 3. So there are a couple of things. We need to fill this in over here with the page, and this is going to be check login and the data that we're sending. And in this data, it will look for vulnerable parameters. We could also specify batch if we want to have everything, if we want SQL map to run completely automatically. But we'll see. So first we need to power up burp. Let's see. So, okay. We want to make sure that intercept is on. Then we go back over here and tell Foxy Proxy to use burp for all URLs. We're going to fill in with admin and admin as password, and we're going to hit login. Okay. And if we go back to burp, we can see this request. So it actually does a post request to check login.php. So this is what we want to fill our SQL map with. So let's go to the SQL map command. So it's check login.php, and the data that we need to specify is the data that's being sent. So this is the data. Control C, Control Shift V. Okay. So let's try and see if this works. So I'm not going to insist on this, but I'm just showing you that you can do SQL injection, exploiting this SQL injection vulnerability in more than one ways. Okay, so I'm gonna stop proxying through burp. I'm also gonna close burp over here. All right, and we are going to proceed further and just leave this SQL map running in the background. I don't think we need to look here on the page anymore. Okay, so what I was saying that we're going to try to SSH into John's account with the password that we found, which should be over here. So my name is John. So SSH John at 192.168.152.136 with the password. My name is, hello, my name is John. Okay, so this is not the default message that you're being presented with when you log into SSH. So the first thing that I tried, I didn't actually get it from the very beginning, so I tried doing sudo -l, and it says forbidden sudo, and this is when I thought that I might be in some sort of a restricted shell. And for that I typed help, and I could see the only couple of commands that I was able to run. So after doing some further investigation, I found out that this type of shell is an LShell. Okay, so if we go and do a Google search on LShell, let's say LShell bypass, or even if you want to learn more about LShell, you should look it up on Google. So what I found out that this is a Python based limited shell, and one way to actually get out of it is by using a Python command. So the only thing that I could think of when looking at the commands that I can run over here was that I would be able to escape this shell through some sort of echoing. So I tried looking into cat etc password, but unknown command cat. I tried getting out of this directory. So this was forbidden. If I do it one more time, I'm kicked out of the server. Okay, so let's go back into John. My name is John, Control Shift V. All right, so we're back. So like I said, after some further investigations, I was able to find out that echo is the way to get out of this shell. So I would echo, so this, since this is a Python based shell, I would echo this Python command, OS system. So we're making use of the OS module in Python, and we're simply spawning a bin bash shell using OS system. And right now we are out of this restricted shell. So if we look at help, if we look at ls-a, if we try to get out of this shell, we can see that we are able to, right now we are in a normal shell. So it was as simple as that. And the key, I want to point out over here that the key is enumeration all the way. So once I was out of this shell, I looked for the type of operating system I am in, and when I saw that this is an old kernel, I knew in fact that there are a couple of exploits that can be used to obtain privilege escalation on the server. So one of the ways to become root or the user with the highest privileges on this is by using some sort of exploit, because this is an old machine. But another way is to actually try and look for misconfigurations or poor configurations of the server. And that's what I actually did. So let's just go back, because SQL map requires our attention. It is not recommended to perform. If there, do you want to skip? Yes. Okay. So enumeration, enumeration, enumeration. This is the key. Right now we are in home. Let's go back. Let's go into var // and see if there's anything interesting in the web directory of this server. So we can see that there's a database.sql. Let's see if we can cat it. Okay, there's also a checklogin.php. And there are a couple of other files and folders. Let's look into John. There's john.php. Nothing interesting here. Oh, in fact there is. So we can see that we have the username with no password. So we have the root with no password for the SQL database that's running on the server. So there is at least one way in which you could escalate your privileges to root if you have access as root on the MySQL database. And this was actually the vector of attack that I believe was intended for privilege escalation on this server. One of the exploits, if I'm going back and I'm telling you about the exploits, one of the exploits that I know that works is the dirty cow exploit. So you can try, I actually tried the dirty cow exploit and I was able to obtain root on the server with that exploit. The idea is that you would have to compile it. The server doesn't have GCC nor CC to compile the exploit on the server. So this is a 32-bit machine, and what I did was to compile the exploit on my 32-bit Kali machine and then transfer it using let me see if I have it over here. It's not over here. So the idea would be to get the dirty cow, from exploit.db. So 40839, and compile it on the machine, compile it on Kali. So I would download this exploit, compile it on my Kali, and then use python minus m simple HTTP server to transfer it on the target machine. And over here I would get 192.168.152.136 on port 80. I don't even have to specify that. Dirty, then I would change mode +x to dirty to execute it, and then I would just execute dirty and specify the new password for the root account. And then once the exploit runs, I could simply just sudo su into the root account with the password that I specified previously. But the exploit is not the purpose of this video. So SQL map got a 302. Do you want to follow? Let's say no. Okay, so we have MySQL, username root, password, no password. Okay, before going through that vector, I would also do more enumeration with some sort of automated script like linenum. So I would get linenum onto the server on dev as shm, for example. So the content of this folder gets deleted with a reboot, and SQL map requires our attention again. So injection not exploitable will null values. Do we want to try a random integer value for option? Let's say yes, and see if it actually is able to exploit it. Post parameter my password is vulnerable. Do we want to keep testing the others, if any? Let's say no. Okay, and as we can see, it dumps whatever it finds. So let's see. So we have John, my name is John, the password for John. So Robert, the password, John, the password. So SQL map and this command is another way of exploiting this SQL injection vulnerability. But getting back to enumeration, like I said, enumeration is key. So I would go to dev shm and I would download the linenum script for automated enumeration, and in the meantime I would look into cd etc. I would look into Apache 2 folder for some possible misconfigurations over here. I would also look into MySQL folder for different information that I could find in these files and in the confd folder. What else I would do? I would also, so let's get back to dev shm. As a matter of fact, let's see. We can cd into root, but we are John. So on this box, we can cd into root and get the congrats.txt file. So you can see that we can actually read this file. Okay. And if I want to clear, we can see that unknown terminal type. To fix this, I would export term to xterm. Let's see if we can clear it. All right. To further enumerate, I would also try to see SUID or GUID files with find minus perm minus u equals s minus type f 2 greater than dev null. This would be for SUID files, and for GUID files would be g minus s. And I would look further to see if I can find some other vector of privilege escalation through these files. Okay, so getting back to our main vector, finally, it was MySQL. So we're going to try to get into the database as root with no password. Enter password, enter, and we are inside the database. So like I said, there is at least one way to do privilege escalation if you are able to log in as root into the MySQL database. And one of these ways is to user-defined functions. So if you want to learn more about this, Google user-defined functions MySQL privilege escalation or privilege escalation UDF. And we want to see if on this machine, so let's get out of this shell. Okay, so we want to see if there's MySQL UDF script or functionality installed with the MySQL server. And in fact, it actually is. So we have the library MySQL UDF. If we do an ls-al for this, there you go. We can see it has read-write for users groups, for root, for the group, and for users. Okay, so inside this library, MySQL UDF, which is installed into MySQL Server, let's get back into it. There are a couple of functions, and one of them allows a command execution. And that function, I think it was system or sysexec. So in this case, if we do a select sysexec, and I'm not going to look it up unless if I don't have it right, what we're actually going to try to do, if this so this in theory should be executed as root, this statement, because we are inside MySQL and we are logged in as root. So what we would want to do, since we are John over here, we want to add John to the administrators group. So usermod minus, I don't think it was minus, I think it was add to the user group admin our user John. I might not have it right, but let's see. So usermod add minus g admin John. Let's see. So select sys lost connection to MySQL Server during query. Let's go back and see usermod add user to group. It might be minus add. Minus add minus g admin John. And we have a null. I'm not really sure if this executed correctly, but we can go back to a bash. So bash minus I, and we can try to sudo su, and it's going to require John's password, which was, let me see, John's password was this one. Control Shift V, and we are root. So this this statement executed properly. So the command, the vulnerable command inside the UDF library was sysexec, and we've taken advantage of it, and we've just added John to the admins group. And then what we actually did was to sudo su with John's password, and right now who am I, or ID root. So we have gained complete control over this server. So this was really interesting. For me, this machine was a refresher on MySQL UDF. I learned some new stuff about restricted shells. So I could say that overall it was a positive learning experience, which should add a lot to my OSCP preparation. Okay fellas, so this was Kioptrix 4 or Kioptrix 1.3 in a nutshell. If you fellas enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with anyone interested in cybersecurity and penetration testing. And with that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next video.